All right, get ready because we're about to dive into something that might just turn your muscle building strategy upside down.
It always fascinates me how much time we spend obsessing over the perfect workout plan,
Mm.
the latest and greatest supplement.
Right.
But we totally forget about the simplest things.
Yeah, and today we're tackling two things that are probably in your kitchen cupboard right this second: water and salt.
It's true.
I mean, sure, we all know they're important for basic health and stuff.
Right.
But this document, it's called Podcast Edue Con Cell.
Okay.
It goes deep, deep, deep into how crucial they are for building a physique that's seriously impressive.
Yeah.
It even goes as far as to say that neglecting them is the biggest mistake people make in natural bodybuilding.
Right. And it makes sense. I mean, when you think about it, our bodies are what, like 70% water?
Yeah.
We need it for absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Muscle function, transporting nutrients, even just regulating our temperature. It's kind of a big deal.
So are you saying that even being a little dehydrated could be seriously holding us back from seeing the results we want?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
And this document, it really highlights how even seasoned, those really meticulous natural bodybuilders, the ones who are super disciplined,
Right, right.
they often underestimate how important proper hydration really is.
So it's not just about feeling thirsty then, right? It's about how that dehydration actually shows up in our physique, how it changes the way we look.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Think of it this way. A dehydrated muscle, it's kind of like a flat tire.
Okay.
It loses that fullness.
Yeah.
Without enough water, your muscle cells, they actually shrink. And so you end up with this soft appearance, which is, pretty much the opposite of what most of us are going for, right?
No, totally. I mean, we're all about that definition.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to see why they call this a common mistake.
Yeah.
We get so fixated on protein, hitting the gym, all that,
Right.
that we kind of forget about the foundation, the basics.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's where salt comes into play.
Okay.
It's gotten a pretty bad reputation over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Salt, it's always associated with bloating, water retention.
Which, let's be real, nobody wants when they're working towards that, lean, ripped look. Right?
Exactly, right. Nobody wants that. But this document, it actually argues that totally ditching salt, that's not the answer either.
Really?
Even for people who have, hypertension, high blood pressure, things like that. In fact, it suggests that having the right amount of salt could actually be beneficial.
Okay, now that's interesting because it kind of goes against everything we've been told, right? I mean, everywhere you look, it's low sodium, this, salt-free, that.
Right.
So I'm curious, what's the science behind that?
Well, it all comes down to how salt affects hydration, at a cellular level.
Okay.
You see, it's not just about how much water you're drinking.
Right.
It's about how well that water can actually reach your muscle cells, how effectively they're being hydrated.
So how does salt help with that?
Okay, so salt, it's got these things called electrolytes, right? Primarily sodium and potassium. And they play a huge role in keeping the fluid balance inside our cells, in check.
Okay.
These electrolytes, they create what's called an osmotic gradient. Think of it like a force that pulls water into those muscle cells.
Interesting.
And that's what gives you that full round look we're all after.
So without enough salt, are you saying that we could be guzzling gallons of water?
Yeah, basically.
But our muscles aren't actually getting the benefit.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Wow.
The document even calls it a vicious cycle, where if you don't have enough salt, you end up with poor hydration, and that messes with your performance and how defined your muscles look.
So it's we need both sides of the equation, right?
Yeah.
The water and the salt working together to really get the most out of our efforts.
Exactly, you got it.
That's amazing. I never thought of it that way before.
And it gets even more interesting when we bring carbs into the mix, too.
Carbs, water, salt. Okay, so now we're talking, it's the recipe for muscle growth, right?
You got it. This document, it makes this really fascinating connection between these three things.
Okay.
Basically, it says that you absolutely need water and salt for your body to use and store carbs properly as glycogen.
Right, glycogen. Okay, remind me now. How does that play into building muscle?
So glycogen is like your muscle's energy reserve, right?
What?
So when you eat carbs, your body turns them into glucose, which it can use for energy right away or stores glycogen for later.
So when we're working out, pushing hard, our muscles are tapping into that glycogen to keep going.
Exactly. And the more glycogen you have stored up, the more energy you have to power through your workout, and the better your recovery will be afterwards.
This is making a lot of sense now. So hold on. What I'm hearing is if we're not drinking enough water or getting enough salt, our bodies can't store glycogen effectively even if we're eating enough carbs.
Exactly. That's what this document is saying. A lot of people, they sabotage their own progress, especially when they're like really focused on carb loading.
Yeah.
And it's simply because they're not paying attention to how much water and salt they're taking in.
It's like we're missing this huge piece of the puzzle. Like, we can be tracking our macros, eating all the right things,
Right.
but if our hydration's off, if we don't have that electrolyte balance, it's like, what's the point?
It's all about synergy, right?
Yeah.
Think of it like this. You've got your carbs. They're the building blocks for those muscles, right?
Yeah.
Water, that's your delivery system. It gets everything where it needs to go. And then salt. Salt makes sure everything runs smoothly.
I like that. So salt is like the conductor of the orchestra, making sure everything's in sync?
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
For our listeners out there who are really serious about, maximizing their gains, this is huge. This is game-changing information.
It really is. And it's not just about how well you perform in the gym either.
No.
Proper glycogen storage, it affects how your muscles actually look too.
Really?
It gives you that full, round appearance, that paper-thin skin look that everyone's after.
Oh, okay. Now I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So how do we actually put this knowledge into action? Because I'm guessing it's not as simple as, like, chugging gallons of water and swallowing fistfuls of salt, right?
You're right. It's all about finding that balance, what works for your body.
Okay.
This document, it recommends starting with a baseline of about, let's see, zero 0.6 to zero 0.8 liters of water.
Okay.
And about the same range for salt, 0.6 to zero 0.8 grams per 10 kilograms of lean body mass.
Okay. That's helpful and everything, but can we, like, break that down a bit for, like, a real person, Say someone weighs 70 kilograms. What would their ideal intake be?
Sure, let's say someone weighs 70 kilograms, and we're assuming that's all lean body mass. They'd want to aim for roughly 4.2 to 5.6 liters of water per day.
That's a lot of water.
It seems like a lot, but remember, you're spreading that out throughout the day. And it's really important to listen to your body, too. Some people just naturally need more or less fluids, depending on, how active they are, the climate they live in, even just their own individual makeup.
That makes sense. Okay. And what about salt for our 70-kilogram friend?
So for salt, they'd be looking at about 4.2 to 5.6 grams per day.
Okay, so we're not talking about, like, insane amounts of salt or anything.
Yeah.
It's more about being aware of how much we're having and making sure we're getting enough.
Exactly. And the key takeaway here is that this is just like a starting point.
Okay.
It's really crucial to pay attention to how your own body responds and tweak
Sure.
things as needed. Some people might find they need a bit more, some a bit less. It's all very personal.
So it all comes back to that self-monitoring piece.
Yeah.
Paying attention to how much water and salt we're taking in, and then really tuning into our bodies, seeing how our muscles feel, how they look.
Exactly. Consistency is key here.
Okay.
You want to be gradually increasing your water, salt, and carb intake over time.
Yeah.
And just seeing how your body reacts.
It's like fine-tuning a recipe, right? You wouldn't just dump all the ingredients in at once and hope for the best.
Right.
You taste as you go, adjust the seasonings, experiment a bit until you find that perfect balance.
Exactly. You got it. And speaking of recipes, this document actually has some really practical tips for incorporating water and salt into your daily routine.
Okay, yeah, let's hear them. Because like you said, it's all about those little tweaks, those subtle changes we can make that can, like, really add up over time.
Well, they suggest something that honestly is super simple. Start your day with a glass of water and a pinch of salt.
Really?
Yeah. It's such a small thing.
Yeah.
That it can make a world of difference.
See, now I'm going to have to be honest. I'm usually reaching for the coffee first thing in the morning, like before I even really open my eyes.
I get it. It's a common habit.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. You're kind of already playing catch up if you're starting your day dehydrated.
Right. Yeah.
That glass of water with the salt, it's like it's giving your body a head start on hydration for the day.
Makes sense. It's like giving your body that hydration boost before you even get going.
Exactly.
Okay. So what about the rest of the day? How do we keep up that salt intake without, going overboard? We don't want to be walking around with salt shakers, pouring it on everything.
No,
Okay.
yeah, definitely not. Again, it's about gradual integration. So instead of like drastically upping your salt intake all at once, try adding a little extra to your meals throughout the day.
Oh.
That way your body can adjust slowly,
Oh.
And it helps you avoid any like digestive issues.
So no more bland food. I can get behind that.
Exactly. It's about being mindful,
Yeah.
making sure you're getting enough to support hydration and, how your body uses nutrients and all that.
Right. Salt in the right amounts is not the enemy.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about water, we talked about salt. What about carbs? Because I know you mentioned before that the document also talked about being aware of our carb tolerance, especially as we start to adjust our water and salt intake. So, like, what's the link there?
Good point. Yeah, because remember how we talked about how water, salt, and carbs all work together?
Right, right.
As you start to increase your water and salt intake, you might find that your body is suddenly able to handle carbs better.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you might be able to eat more carbs without those negative side effects, which is great news if you're trying to, really maximize your muscle growth.
So it's almost like by upping our water and salt, we're kind of prepping our bodies to use carbs more efficiently.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. It's all about optimizing how your body works as a whole.
Okay, that's amazing.
And of course, everyone's different, right?
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another person.
Which is why it's always a good idea to chat with a doctor or a registered dietitian, someone who knows their stuff, before making any big changes to your diet.
Right. Absolutely, 100%. They can help you figure out the right amount of water and salt for you, based on your goals, your health history, all of that.
This has been incredible. Seriously, who knew that water and salt could be such game changers when it comes to building the physique you want? I mean, we started off thinking of them as these like basic things, and now it's like they're secret
I know,
weapons.
right?
Yeah,
It really challenges everything we thought we knew about hydration and salt, and it just goes to show sometimes the simplest solutions are the most powerful.
totally. It's like we're uncovering these hidden superpowers in the most everyday things.
That's a great way to put it.
And, it just proves that there's always more to learn, even about the things we think we've got figured out.
Exactly. And as you continue to, experiment and find what works best for you, just remember, building a better physique, it's a journey, it's not a race.
No, true.
Enjoy the process, be patient with yourself, and trust that your body is capable of amazing things.
Love it. Great advice to end on. Thanks for this incredible deep dive. It's been a pleasure.